Hi, I'm Julie Cini. I'm the CEO of Advocacy Beyond Borders, and a global organisation supporting patient organisation groups all over the world. A couple of years ago, we applied through our National Blood Spot Screening Committee to have newborn screening added for SMA, and the process was actually approved by our federal government. So we have a two-step program in Australia. It gets recommended federally to say yes, that this disease needs to be added to this program, but it then goes to each state of Australia and they fund it with their own money. So that for us is where the problems arose. Each of them have, a different government, a Labor or a Liberal government, and each of them had their own priorities. And of course, how do you then make SMA stand out amongst every other disease out there and try and make it the most important disease so they can elevate it to the top of the pile? And that's been a big challenge. That's taken us about 12 months to be able to tell stories, to educate politicians, to make sure that there's many people advocating for our team. It's been a really big collaborative team effort, and I encourage anyone that is doing anything to do with newborn screening to get as many people involved as possible, because in this case, everyone makes light work of a big issue like this. We got clinicians involved, we got politicians involved, we got families involved to tell their stories. Obviously, pharma was involved to make sure that, they were part of the process as well. So it's been really good working with all these people to ensure, the making of that it's going to get on. And 12 months later, here we are, we've got every single state of Australia who have now committed funding for the program. There's only one state left that it's pretty certain that it'll come on. They're just a little bit slow in understanding the process and what they need to do because their testing is done out of another state. So the advocacy has been really brilliant for newborn screening. We have done lots of phone calls, lots of letters, and those key people in each state have been, beautiful, and they have helped. So they're on our team. They want to make sure that this is being passed. They've got skin in the game, and I think that's really a really important message moving forward, to get other people's skin in the game, because many hands make light work, and I could never have done this on my own. It would still be sitting there. I must be honest about that. So to make sure that other people have a vested interest in this, parents have a vested interest in this, clinicians have a vested interest in this, pharma has a vested interest in this, everyone has. And it's really great to see that. We did a similar thing with genetic screening. So we had a meeting in Parliament 5 years ago, and we talked about the importance of having genetic screening available for parents here in Australia. And that day I actually had he was then the Treasurer, and then he got to be the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, in the room. His wife knew a family of mine, and I got onto her through, the back door sort of thing, and said, can you get him there? And he came that day, and he listened, and he got skin in the game. He wanted to make sure that he could do everything that he could to help us. And we got a pilot program that's been running over the last 3 years called Mackenzie's Mission. It was a pilot study to study many different genetic conditions, not just SMA, to see people, how they feel about going through the process of screening before birth, how many people did it pick up? You know, what are the ramifications of someone who does get picked up? Would they like IVF to make sure they screen it out? Would they just turn around and say, oh, actually, no, we're just going to go and fall pregnant naturally? So that study's just finished, and the findings will be presented in November. But before the change of government just recently in Australia, they did announce that Mackenzie's mission, the pilot program, would be funded fully from November 2023. So regardless of the study results, which I know some of the study results have been phenomenal, the funding will still be there to ensure that everyone in the future will get the test paid for on Medicare. So the test is currently $385. It tests for spinal muscular atrophy and 2 other conditions called Fragile X and cystic fibrosis, which are the 3 common genetic conditions out there that have the most effect on a family, and they will be funded next year. So somebody who can't afford it, you know, who can't afford the $385 for the test, will be able to be looked after. It's not just a rich man's test anymore, or a high society test anymore. It's available for everyone. And you do find, when you see people in the system, sometimes it's the low socioeconomic people that have the worst luck. And if they would have just been provided a test, things would be so different. So this is really good for everyone in the country. You know, no matter what race you are, you know, it's going to provide you a result, so you can choose your reproductive future. And I think that's really important moving forward. Roadblocks and challenges are going to be there for everyone every day, and my first piece of advice to anyone listening to this is stay in your lane. You know, drive your car in your own lane. Don't listen to the people that come and say, oh, you can't do that, you know, that's not going to work. You know, have resilience to keep going, because you will get there in the end. For us, it took, 5 years, but we did get there. I guess our main roadblock would be, it got funded, or it got recommended federally, and then that juxtaposition of the federal recommendation following on, it didn't flow on into the states fairly quickly, and that's sort of taken us a while to get it over the line in each state. There were some states that were like, yep, this is easy, let's do it, it's a no-brainer, and there were others that are like, oh, I don't know about this, and then there were other states who were waiting for a second condition called severe combined immunodeficiency, or SCID, whose test is done on the same panel to be passed. So we sort of got a little bit, lagged behind because we were waiting for something else. So we were being disadvantaged, which was a little bit of a shame, but hopefully now that it has been passed, they're all just buying all the infrastructure, the equipment to do it, and training the staff to be able to, produce these, or the results for these mass testing. They'll do 200 to 300,000 babies a year. So, to pick up, 30 or 40 kids a year in Australia, that is just going to be life-changing. And that's why you do it, Like I said before, you don't want to bury your child, and to know that for me to know that I've changed somebody's life in 5 years' time who doesn't even know what SMA is a pretty cool legacy to leave on this world. Like I said, resilience is the biggest thing that it teaches you. You need to not listen to your haters and your doubters, because they're there. They're always going to be there. There's always somebody who wants to take your limelight, who wants to, shout louder than somebody else. There's somebody out there who doesn't know or won't come to you to find the real story out, and then they'll go off and, for example, we had a set of mums that in Queensland that wanted to do a protest on Parliament steps, and they had no prior knowledge of what was going on. They didn't realise that I'd been talking to the government for 8 months, and they thought by placarding the steps of Parliament was going to make a big difference, and it wasn't. The difference was made 8 months ago when I had the initial meeting. But, they're the type of challenges that you're faced, and you just, you calm down, people. I've got it under control, but if you don't communicate with me, I can't tell you what's been happening. So, that was a big issue that we had to overcome. And we were lucky enough in that instance, they announced 2 days before their protest. So I was just like, so yeah, stay in your lane. There will be heartbreak. There will be days where you're just like, I can't do this anymore. And I did many times. I sat there in tears going, why on earth can't I get this through? What is going on? But you look at it, you go away, you have a bit of a break, you come back and you look at it again with fresh eyes, or you sit with someone who has fresh eyes and says, hey, how can we move forward on this? And you've just got to come back and have another go. And yeah, I did that for many years. And there were haters all around me going, you can't do this, you're not professional, give it to somebody who can do it. And I'm just like, come and walk 5 minutes in my shoes, and then you'll see actually the amount of work that is put into doing something like this, and you see how hard it is. So it's a long road, a lonely road sometimes. Yeah, there were lots of partners throughout the whole process. So clinicians, definitely, you need to obviously have your people, your patients as your partners, because who are you doing this for? You're doing this for them, and without their input, without their expertise and their knowledge, you can't move forward. And I guess the biggest partner and the most beneficial partner in the whole thing has definitely been pharmaceutical. To be able to work with those stakeholders to make sure that they had skin in the game. Yeah, I understand they've got a drug in the back end, but this can't be done without everyone's input, and pharmaceuticals' input was definitely really, really important through the whole process. It's been fantastic working with them, that's for sure. So we had a meeting every week, and we're currently still having those meetings. We're not quite finished, so this has been going on for 12 months. So we would have a meeting of what was going on that week. Who did we need to talk to? Who did we need to email? What stories do we need to tell for each? So there were 7 different states and territories. So we would concentrate on the quick wins first. So for example, in Australia, New South Wales and ACT had a pilot program, so they were already up and running. So we felt we didn't need to talk to them for a little while because they had the big picture, they got it. So we went up to Queensland and had meetings with their government, talking to actually people who are going to be doing the tests. How are you going? How can we help you? What infrastructure do you need input with? Is there anyone that we can connect you with? Can I connect you with the clinicians who did the pilot program? Just opening that channel of communication. And once you opened that channel of communication, you actually found out what they knew, what they didn't know, and what you needed to have to help them get this information. For example, our last state, which is Tasmania, they're right back in the beginning. They don't even think they've got the draft pilot program, or they think they've only got a draft of the pilot program report, and it's been out for 2 years. So they're floundering because they've got no idea what they're looking for, and their testing comes from South Australia, or is done by the people in South Australia. So they're sort of twice removed from it. So we're early education with them right now to even get them to understand what the process is. And look, mate, you're the last person on the list here. How about you follow what everyone else is doing instead of going, oh, we need to read the information. We're giving them that information. They're saying they don't have that information. So sending them those reports, making sure that they're on their desks, following them up with them. Hey, is there anything else that we can do to make sure that we can help? And also talking to both sides of parliament, so the people who are in power and the opposition. That's super important. So you've got obviously, premiers and leaders that are really have a vested interest in this. And then, for example, in Tasmania, the Premier, he's like, yeah, and he's, looking around as if he's not really interested. So we've got the opposition leader engaged, going, hey, this is on his radar, it needs to be on your radar, so you can make sure that he knows as well. So it's not just the government of the day's decision. We want to make sure that it's a bipartisan decision. We want to make sure that it's for everyone, because that's who it affects. It affects everyone. So we've had lots of meetings, lots of Zoom calls with MPs. You get like a 15-minute window. You've got to really be succinct and get your message out in 15 minutes and say to them what you need. How can they help you? This is a thing. A parliamentarian is an advocate for their local community. We've got people in your local community that need your help. Here's how you can help them. Can you go and speak in Parliament? Can you go and have a word to the Premier or the Prime Minister or whoever it is to make sure that their voice is heard? So that's sort of been the best way that we've had these partnerships work, where everyone has had skin in the game and they've wanted to help the bigger picture, and we've been successful. And I think that's what we need to replicate around the world. Go into these countries and say, who's the skin in the game here? Who do we need to talk to? What are the stakeholders that will play a part in this for the future? And let's talk to them. Let's open that line of communication so we can get this through quicker, rather than, who wants to wait another 2 or 3 years for, countries to have access to this? We need it yesterday. There's kids that are dying, and we can all play a part in saving someone's life. I mean, for me, when I got these treatments across the line, the feeling of euphoria is better than any drug you'll ever take, and you just want to keep doing it over and over again. And I want to give that feeling to somebody else. I want others to feel how I felt when you save someone's life. It is cool, and you're just like, oh my God, I need that again. I need that rush again. And that's what I want to empower on the stakeholders globally, to be able to say, okay, let's get this rush together, because it's better than any drug you'll ever take in the world.